I have dedicated 5 years to my role at this company. 5 lengthy years. The memory of stepping through those doors for the first time lingers in my mind, just after college, filled with ambition and a desire to make my mark. In those days, it seemed as though the universe was full of endless possibilities. I possessed a strong drive, vitality, and an insatiable desire to ascend in the business world. However, after 5 years, I began to sense a feeling of being trapped. Over the last year, I have been seeking a promotion. I've followed every guideline, achieved all my goals, put in additional hours, and even tackled some of the more demanding assignments. Yet, whenever I inquired about advancing, I was greeted with a series of justifications from my supervisor, Jake. He has consistently found a rationale, an explanation for why the moment wasn't suitable, or why another person was more appropriate. To be frank, it was beyond my comprehension. I had demonstrated my value. I had demonstrated my capabilities repeatedly. Yet, it felt as though nothing ever truly shifted. Initially, I considered that it might simply be a matter of unfortunate timing, or perhaps I was being overly enthusiastic. Yet, as the months stretched on, it began to eat away at me. I have remained steadfast in my commitment to this company. I poured my heart into my work, yet the promotion I was assured felt perpetually elusive. It wasn't as if Jake was surpassing me in any way. I was definitely putting in more effort than he was. It may come off as presumptuous, yet it is simply the reality. And then there was the persistent feeling of being ignored. Jake would commend all the others in the team, those individuals who had only been around for a year or two. Yet, when it was my turn, it was perpetually the same familiar tale. Perhaps another time, Clark. Will arrive before you know it. I began to doubt everything. Was I simply inadequate? Was there something amiss within me? This job brings me immense joy. I truly did. But how much longer could I persist in this manner? After 5 years, it seemed as though I was stuck in place. There were moments when I considered walking away, yet I couldn't bring myself to abandon something I had poured so much time and energy into. However, a shift occurred last week. I received an email from HR requesting my presence in Jake's office. My heart raced at the sight of the subject line. Initially, it didn't seem significant to me. Ultimately, it might revolve around any topic. However, the email indicated that it was crucial. Thoughts began to swirl rapidly in my mind. As I stepped into Jake's office, I was unprepared for what unfolded next. He sat there, wearing his typical self-satisfied smile, yet today felt distinct somehow. His expression held an unexpected gravity, his stance was unnaturally stiff, and beside him stood an unexpected figure. His spouse, Lolo. I had noticed her in the office on several occasions, yet we had hardly exchanged any words. Though she belonged to another department, her presence was a constant at company events, exuding an air of authority as if she were overseeing everything. Jake gestured for me to take a seat, and I made an effort to stay composed. He cleared his throat, and in that moment, he unleashed the shocking revelation. Clark, I've been wanting to discuss this with you for some time now. Your progress has been under careful observation, and I've concluded that a shift is necessary now. I'm pleased to inform you that, effective immediately, you are being promoted to senior manager. I stood still. I struggled to comprehend the words that had just reached my ears. The room seemed to whirl around me, and Jake's words were a distant murmur, barely discernible. Was he for real? After all these months of anticipation, after all the justifications, he was genuinely endorsing me? It was utterly perplexing. What prompts this moment? Why, after all that I had endured? Before I had the chance to interject, Jake pressed on. Lolo and I are in complete agreement that you truly deserve it. Your dedication has been recognized, and we look forward to seeing your contributions in this new position. I looked at Lolo, and for the first time I saw something in her eyes. It was more than a mere professional grin. There was an underlying essence, an elusive quality that I struggled to identify. She gazed at me with a certain admiration, as if she understood me in a way that no one else could. I found myself uncertain about my feelings regarding it. I rose to greet Jake with a handshake, my mind still grappling with the news. He offered his congratulations once more, and Lolo bestowed upon me a warm smile, yet it carried a different weight, almost too intimate. The entire situation felt off, an unsettling quality that lingered in the air, yet I couldn't quite identify what it was. Upon exiting the office, a swirl of exhilaration and uncertainty washed over me. The promotion was the culmination of all my efforts, yet the manner in which it unfolded seemed peculiar. I found myself without the luxury of time to ponder it deeply. Thoughts surged through my mind, each one brimming with potential. What had shifted? What is the reason for this moment? What part did Lolo have in all of this? A sense of intrigue lingered, suggesting that this promotion held deeper layers than what was immediately apparent. Unbeknownst to me, this was merely the start. The initial days following the promotion were nothing short of chaotic. Everything felt fresh responsibilities, fresh expectations, and to be honest, a bit more pressure than I was accustomed to. Yet, amid the hectic tasks, an unsettling thought continued to hover in the recesses of my mind. Lolo. Ever since the gathering in Jake's office, she had been present more frequently. Initially, I believed it was merely a matter of chance. She attended a few meetings I was part of, often positioned by the coffee machine as I filled my morning cup, consistently sharing a smile, a kind word, or a light remark about the weather. It was nothing particularly unusual, yet an undeniable vibrancy filled the atmosphere whenever she was close by. Lolo's behavior wasn't excessively flirtatious. Not at all. She had always been courteous, yet there was a profound quality to her gaze, a warmth in her smile that transcended mere professionalism. It seemed intimate. It was on the third day following my promotion when it first occurred. As I sat in my office, poring over various reports, a gentle knock on the door caught my attention. I glanced up to find Lolo standing there, a cup of coffee cradled in her hand. "Hey Clark," she said, her voice steady yet welcoming. "Jake is currently in a meeting, and I was curious if you might have a moment to spare." In a moment of bewilderment, I blinked, yet I nodded in agreement. "Of course, please step inside." She walked in and settled into the chair opposite me, setting the coffee cup down softly on my desk. For a brief instant, she remained still, her gaze fixed on me. It felt like she was anticipating my words, yet I found myself lost in the mystery of her presence. Thus, she commenced, her gaze scrutinizing me intently. "How is the new position working out for you? I imagine you're quite pleased with the promotion." I maintained a smile, striving to uphold a sense of professionalism. "Absolutely, it's been thrilling and somewhat intense, yet I'm finding my rhythm." Lolo nodded, her fingers gently tracing the rim of her coffee cup, lost in contemplation. "It's wonderful to hear that. You truly deserve this, Clark. I've been receiving numerous positive remarks about you. Your dedication and effort have truly brought you to this point." Her words struck me unexpectedly. Her tone wasn't merely courteous, it resonated with authenticity. And for some reason, that infused the conversation with a weighty silence, as if there were unvoiced thoughts lingering between us. "You know," she continued, her voice dropping to a softer tone, "I have observed you for some time now. There's a wealth of possibility within you. Jake might not always recognize it, but I certainly do." I was at a loss for words in that moment. It was somewhat complimentary, yet also peculiar. Was she implying that Jake didn't value my efforts as much as she did? And if that's the case, why is she sharing this with me at this moment? Before I could respond, Lolo adjusted in her seat, her eyes flickering down for a fleeting instant before locking onto mine once more. On this occasion, a slight shift in her demeanor was evident. The smile she wore was no longer merely courteous. It had a gentle touch, a cozy warmth, and a hint of playful charm. "Text, I hope you don't mind me saying this," she said, her voice lowering to a whisper. "However, I have consistently appreciated your commitment. Your presence has a unique quality that inspires others to seek your guidance." My heart pounded with intensity. What was happening in this place? I found myself questioning whether I was overanalyzing the situation, yet her words seemed to carry a deeper meaning beyond a mere compliment. She inched nearer, her gaze probing into mine. She expressed her conviction that individuals should be acknowledged for their dedication, her voice taking on a more intimate quality. "I believe you deserve much more than merely this promotion." I cleared my throat, striving to uphold a semblance of composure. "Thank you, Lolo. Thank you for that." After that, the dialogue returned to a more neutral tone, and before long, she rose to depart. As she approached the door, she paused, turned back, and offered me a fleeting, enigmatic smile. "Clark," she murmured, her voice gentle. "I believe you have great potential to achieve remarkable things here. Ensure you remain mindful of those who truly pay attention to you." And with that, she departed, leaving me solitary in my office, a whirlwind of questions swirling through my thoughts. What was her intention behind that? Was she merely being kind, or was there something deeper at play here? Throughout the remainder of the day, my concentration eluded me. I found myself reflecting on Lolo and the way she had gazed at me, the way her words had resonated with a sense of intimacy, almost akin to a confession. It was utterly perplexing. She was wed to Jake, my superior. She existed in a realm far beyond my own. Yet, an instinct within me suggested that my recent experience was far from mere chance. Despite my efforts to dismiss the idea, I found it impossible to ignore. I found myself captivated. For the first time in ages, I felt a sense of anticipation for our next encounter. The days that followed seemed to stretch out, each moment distinct and clear. I was still acclimating to the new duties that accompanied my promotion, yet another thought kept intruding into my mind. Lolo. Following our discussion in my office, she seemed to be more engaged. Her presence wasn't a constant, yet whenever she graced us with her company, it felt as though everything else around us dissolved into nothingness. Our interactions were nuanced, brief remarks, and lingering looks, yet I sensed a growing tension, an unarticulated connection between us. A week had passed before I encountered her once more, this time in the corridor adjacent to the break room. As I strolled back from a meeting, I rounded the corner and nearly collided with her. She stood by the coffee machine, casually sipping from her mug. Upon seeing me, her smile was immediate, warm, and just a touch too knowing. "Clark," she said, her voice airy. "I've been hoping to run into you." I paused for a moment, attempting to conceal the wave of anxiety that surged within me. "Greetings, Lolo. How's it going?" As always, she responded with a casual shrug, yet the sparkle in her eyes hinted at something beyond mere work. "I was hoping we could find a moment to talk briefly. I've been pondering something." I found myself at a loss for words. A part of me aimed to maintain a sense of professionalism, to steer clear of overanalyzing the situation, yet another part of me found myself irresistibly drawn in. I've been making an effort to maintain my space, concentrating on my tasks, and preventing whatever this connection was from intensifying. Yet, each time she glanced my way, I found myself irresistibly drawn in. "Absolutely, of course. Hello there," I inquired, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor, even as my heart raced. She motioned towards the conference room further down the hall, a more secluded area. "Shall we converse inside?" Upon entering the conference room, she shut the door behind us and turned to look at me. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words, and for a brief instant, silence enveloped us both. She stood there, gazing at me, as if contemplating her next words. Uncertainty enveloped me, yet I sensed a palpable change in the atmosphere. "I've been reflecting on you quite a bit, Clark," she murmured gently, her tone imbued with a gravity that sent a flutter through my stomach. "Regarding your approach to managing the situation here. You stand out from the rest in a remarkable way. You possess a strong sense of determination. You have a clear vision of your desires. I believe that's a truly unique quality." I found myself standing there, unexpectedly taken aback. I was at a loss for words. It wasn't that I didn't value the kind words, rather, they struck me as overly intimate. Uncomfortably near. This had transcended mere employment. "You've got immense potential," she continued, her eyes locked onto mine. Yet there are moments when individuals fail to recognize it, or they remain oblivious until the opportunity has passed them by. I shifted restlessly, uncertain of the direction this was taking. Could you clarify what you mean? Lolo moved in closer, and I sensed the tension intensify. She paused before responding, yet her very being filled the room with an undeniable intensity. You truly merit so much more than what you're receiving in this situation, Clark. Your dedication and effort have truly earned you this advancement. You truly deserve it. However, I have additional things I wish for you to possess. Her words flowed softly, echoing profoundly within me. What was her intention behind saying more? Was she discussing her job? Or was she referring to something entirely different? I cleared my throat, attempting to assert some authority over the unfolding events. I'm a bit unclear on what you're trying to convey, Lolo. A smile played upon her lips. A tone that struck a balance between playful and serious. She was treading carefully, and I could sense the tension building. Text, I believe you understand precisely what I'm implying, she remarked, her tone lowering once more. Gentler, more personal. Yet, at times, individuals require a gentle nudge to pursue their true desires. My heart raced, and I sensed the tension between us intensifying with each word exchanged. I was reluctant to acknowledge it, yet I could feel the direction in which this was heading. I feared the consequences of allowing it to unfold. Yet, I found it impossible to overlook. There was an undeniable allure in her gaze, a captivating quality in her words that drew me in completely. It transcended the mere act of receiving a promotion. It was deeper than simply her role as my boss's wife. An undeniable chemistry, a connection that simply could not be overlooked. Before I had a chance to reply, she moved in even closer, narrowing the distance between us. I stood still, paralyzed by uncertainty. Her presence was all-consuming, and I sensed my determination starting to wane. Clark, she murmured gently, her fingers lightly grazing my hand. Your dedication has been remarkable, and I am committed to ensuring you receive all that you rightfully deserve. Yet, there are moments when progress remains stagnant until someone gives it a gentle nudge toward the right path. Her silence spoke volumes. The gravity of her words hung in the air, and the fervor in her gaze was palpable. It had evolved beyond mere advancement. It revolved around a different matter, one that I felt uncertain about confronting. In that moment, I sensed that everything was on the brink of transformation. Returning to the past is simply not an option for me. Before I could utter a word, Lolo pivoted and exited the room, leaving me there, grappling to comprehend it all. Thoughts surged through my mind like a whirlwind. Could this merely be a chance occurrence? Or had she orchestrated this from the very beginning? A nagging sensation lingered, whispering that this was merely the start. The days following our discussion in the conference room were among the most perplexing of my existence. My mind was consumed by thoughts of Lolo, the way she had gazed at me, the way her words had flowed towards me. In that instant, it felt like the world had shifted, even though nothing had visibly altered. I retained my promotion and continued to uphold the same responsibilities. Yet, there was an unmistakable sense of distinction. It was as if I were balancing on a slender line, uncertain of the direction in which I might tumble. In the days that followed, I maintained my distance from Lolo, concentrating on my tasks at hand. However, it proved to be quite challenging. Each time she walked by, an unarticulated tension hung in the air between us. A tension that demands your attention, impossible to overlook, regardless of your efforts. Whenever our paths intertwined, I found myself captivated by the way she gazed at me, her eyes lingering just a moment longer, igniting a spark that was undeniable. Once more, it occurred. One evening, I found myself in the office, working late to wrap up a project. After a lengthy day, I found myself eager to return home. While I was gathering my belongings, the door to my office swung open. Lolo was the one. Clark, she murmured, her tone gentle. I trust I'm not causing any disruption. I pivoted to meet her gaze, my heart racing with anticipation. The undeniable response of my heart whenever she was close was impossible to ignore. No, not at all, I replied, attempting to maintain a sense of composure, even though I was anything but calm. Hello there. She entered the office, gently shutting the door behind her. I was hoping we could talk, she said, her gaze unwavering as it locked onto mine. I have a topic I'd like to bring up. There's a message I believe you should consider. I found myself uncertain about whether I was prepared to listen to it. Thoughts surged through my mind, while my stomach churned with unease. A sense of anticipation washed over me, yet I found myself unready to confront what lay ahead. Certainly, I replied, although my voice sounded tight. What thoughts are swirling in your head? Lolo inhaled deeply, her gaze darting to the window before returning to me. Clark, I've been reflecting deeply on everything, on the immense effort you've put in and what you truly deserve, and I realize I haven't been entirely forthcoming with you. My heart raced with excitement. I attempted to maintain my composure, yet within, I was unraveling. Could you clarify what you mean? I inquired, my voice scarcely rising above a murmur. She moved nearer, the atmosphere around us charged with expectation. You truly merit more than simply a promotion, Clark. You are worthy of something that others here simply cannot provide. My thoughts were spinning wildly. Was she referring to her job? Or was she referring to something completely different? The intensity of her gaze, so near, with her breath almost silent, rendered concentration nearly impossible. What is it that you seek from me, Lolo? I inquired, my voice betraying a hint of discomfort. Thoughts swirled in my head, each one vying for clarity amidst the chaos. I never thought I would find myself in this situation, particularly with someone like her, the spouse of my superior. Lolo's lips curled into a subtle smile, yet an unsettling shadow lingered beneath it, sending a chill racing down my spine. I want you, Clark, she said, her voice a husky whisper, charged with purpose. I desire you like I haven't desired anyone in ages. The words struck me with overwhelming force. My breath hitched in my throat, and for an instant, I was frozen, unable to move or utter a word. Could this truly be unfolding? Could this truly be unfolding in my life? Could she truly be expressing this? I'm at a loss for words. I finally succeeded, my voice trembling. This feels off. Lolo's eyes glimmered with a hint of warmth, though just a touch. She moved in even closer, her aura commanding attention. What seems to be the issue, Clark? She inquired, her voice tinged with desperation. You are someone who is worthy of greater recognition and reward. I understand that. I aim to provide you with what you desire. I felt the urge to retreat. I found myself wanting to refuse, yet I was unable to do so. I found myself unable to distance myself from her. She had an undeniable allure, a force that captivated me even as every alarm in my mind blared in protest. Lolo, this goes beyond just the two of us, I said, my voice strained. You are the spouse of my employer. This has the potential to destroy it all. Her smile held a hint of understanding. That's why it must remain our little secret. It's a secret that should remain undisclosed. This will remain between us. For what felt like an eternity, I remained rooted in place, my gaze fixed on her. My mind was whirling. A voice inside me whispered that I shouldn't, yet another part craved the thrill of doing it anyway. The focus had shifted beyond the promotion. It wasn't solely about my own benefits in this situation. It was a completely different experience. Something perilous, exhilarating, and entirely beyond my grasp. Before I realized it, she was right there, her hand gently grazing against mine. The softness of her caress ignited a spark within me, compelling me to draw closer. I found myself treading a dangerous path, yet halting seemed utterly out of reach. And just like that, I found myself completely immersed. She leaned in, her lips nearly brushing against mine, and murmured, "Let me reveal to you what I can offer, Clark." I was completely lost in my actions. Uncertainty loomed over what would unfold next. Yet, I find myself unable to halt it at this moment. I had crossed the threshold, and there was no way to return. I ought to have realized it was too perfect to endure. The clandestine romance with Lolo, the exhilaration, the rush, everything seemed so ideal, so taboo. Yet, I remained oblivious to the fissures developing just out of sight, the subtle murmurs and glances traded in secrecy. I believed I was invincible, yet reality proved otherwise, and in an instant, everything crumbled. Everything began with Marcus. I had always regarded him as a companion, a colleague who had been with the company nearly as long as I had. He was a decent fellow, yet his behavior had been peculiar of late. He had been observing me, his gaze shifting in a way that suggested he sensed something was amiss. I ought to have understood that he was catching on to more than I had anticipated, yet I failed to do so. It was simple to overlook, particularly when I was deeply engrossed in my own existence. One afternoon, I found myself in the break room, seeking a moment of clarity after yet another intense meeting with Lolo. Each day brought new complexities, yet retreating was not an option for me. I found myself entangled beyond measure. I clung to the notion that my future with this company was secure, that the promotion would ultimately justify all my efforts. Marcus entered, his expression a complete enigma. He lingered for a moment, arms folded across his chest. "Clark," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's time for a conversation." I gazed at him, a swirl of confusion clouding my thoughts. "Concerning what topic?" He stepped closer and said, "You know exactly what. Don't act naive. I'm aware of the situation between you and Lolo." My stomach plummeted. The atmosphere in the room became heavy, almost stifling. It was hard to fathom the words that reached my ears. How did he find out? For how long had he been aware? "I'm not sure what you mean," I replied, attempting to maintain my composure, even as my thoughts raced wildly. He arched an eyebrow, his eyes piercing. "Do you honestly believe I wouldn't catch on? The way you both gaze at one another. The clandestine gatherings. The hours that stretch into the early morning. Seriously, Clark, I know what's going on." A chill crept down my spine, and I could sense the cold sweat gathering at the nape of my neck. "Marcus, this is trivial. You simply don't grasp it. It's intricate." "Intricate?" He let out a derisive laugh. "You're treading on thin ice. Do you really believe that no one else has seen this? Your level of caution may not be as high as you believe." I found myself at a loss for words. My heart raced wildly, and the walls seemed to constrict around me. I believed I had everything managed perfectly. I wished I could keep the secret hidden away. Yet, Marcus had unraveled the mystery. And now, he was gazing at me as if he had just discovered my secret. "Marcus," I implored. "It's a secret that must remain undisclosed. You fail to grasp the implications. If this becomes known. Indeed, I'm aware of the consequences if it becomes public." He cut in, his tone icy. "Yet, you've strayed too far, Clark. You've crafted your circumstances, and now you must embrace them." I remained in place, my thoughts whirling around me. My journey, my standing, all that I had strived for, it was all at stake. I had become too entangled, too immersed in a situation that was never meant to unfold. At this moment, escape seemed impossible. The following morning, I found myself summoned to the boss's office. As I stepped inside, a wave of despair washed over me. Mr. Collins sat behind his desk, his expression serious, hands neatly folded before him. Lolo sat next to him, her face a mask of mystery. "Clark," Mr. Collins stated, his tone icy and official. "A situation has arisen." The gravity of his words enveloped me, a palpable force that I could not escape. This was the moment I had been fearing. "I've been made aware of your actions," Mr. Collins continued, his voice laced with fury. "This has reached its limit." I glanced at Lolo, yet she avoided my eyes. Her expression was one of guilt, tinged with a hint of shame, yet her lips remained sealed. She wasn't causing me any offense. And that was the moment I realized it had come to an end. "You're a diligent worker, Clark," Mr. Collins remarked, his tone gentler now, yet devoid of any warmth. "However, you've stepped over a boundary that cannot be undone. You have broken my trust, as well as Lolo's trust. This matter concludes here. I attempted to voice my objections, to articulate my thoughts, yet the words eluded me. A sense of suffocation enveloped me, as if I were ensnared in a relentless nightmare. And regarding your future here, Mr. Collins went on, I'm afraid it has come to an end. Your employment is being terminated effective immediately. And if you believe you can just stroll into another job in this town, you're gravely mistaken. I will ensure that everyone understands the reasons behind your departure. Clark, it seems unlikely that anyone will be interested in hiring you. The weight of his words struck me with the force of a gut punch. The sting of unshed tears lingered at the edges of my vision, yet I held them at bay. I remained frozen, gazing at him, struggling to comprehend the events that had just unfolded. It felt as though the ground had been violently torn away beneath my feet. Lolo rose to her feet, her gaze icy and remote. Farewell, Clark, she murmured, her voice scarcely audible. I regret that it concluded like this. I felt an overwhelming urge to scream, to shout, to take action, yet I remained frozen, immobilized by the weight of the situation. Everything was gone. My profession. My journey. The path that lies ahead of me. All due to my inability to resist the allure of something I should have steered clear of. As I departed the office for the final time, I sensed the immense burden of the world bearing down upon me. I had destroyed it all. And now I found myself with nothing.